What would you do if a billionaire stranger offered you everything you've lost, but demanded your heart as collateral? Before you answer that, drop your location and current time in the comments right now. I want to know where my soul family is watching from. Listen, if you've ever felt rejected and thrown away by people who should have protected you, if you've ever had your dreams shattered by someone who promised you forever then walked away like you meant nothing, if you ever stood in front of a mirror wondering if you'll ever be enough for anyone, then this story is going to hit different. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't just another romance story. This is about a woman who lost everything, her dignity, her future, her family's hope, all because she wasn't refined enough for some elite family standards. And a man so isolated by his own success that he built walls so high, even money couldn't buy him genuine connection. But here's where it gets crazy. Meet Harper Lynn Coleman. Just 6 months ago, she was planning her dream wedding. Designer dress picked out, venue booked, flowers chosen. This small-town Georgia girl thought she'd found her Prince Charming with a wealthy heir whose family had old money and older snobbery. But on what should have been the most beautiful day of her life, his family pulled him aside and whispered words that destroyed everything. She's too country for our circle. Too country, not because she wasn't educated. This woman is a brilliant journalist who worked her way through college on scholarships while most of his friends were handed everything on silver platters. Not because she wasn't beautiful. Honey, she could charm the birds in the trees with her smile and that sweet southern drawl. But because her small-town roots and working-class family didn't fit their narrow definition of society material, the wedding was called off. Just like that. Years of planning, love, and hope gone. They threw away this genuine, hard-working woman like she was nothing more than an embarrassing mistake. But it gets worse. While Harper was trying to piece together her broken heart, her daddy collapsed. The stress, the medical bills, the shame of a canceled engagement in their tight-knit community. It was crushing their family financially and emotionally. She needed a miracle, and she needed it fast. Now, have you ever met someone so successful they forgot how to be human? That's Kaito Nakamura. This man built a tech empire from nothing. We're talking private jets, penthouse views of Singapore's skyline, board meetings where a single decision could change thousands of lives. Forbes calls him a genius. Wall Street calls him untouchable. But here's what they don't know. Every night, this billionaire goes home to an empty penthouse and eats dinner alone. Every single night. See, Kaito lost his sister Hannah when they were young, and that loss taught him that loving people meant losing them. So he chose isolation. He chose control. He chose success over connection, until his own board directors started whispering that a man who can't maintain personal relationships might not be stable enough to lead a global company. His reputation was on the line. His empire was being questioned. And for the first time in his adult life, Kaito Nakamura felt vulnerable. Two broken people, two different kinds of pain, two lives that seemed destined to remain separate until one night in Singapore changed everything. At a charity gala filled with Singapore's elite, fate decided to play matchmaker. These two wounded souls collided in the most unexpected way, and in a conversation that lasted less than 10 minutes, Kaito made Harper an offer that would either save them both or destroy what was left of their hearts. "I need a woman," he said, his voice cutting to the noise of clinking champagne glasses and polite laughter. "And you need a home, a marriage contract. 1 year, she gets financial security and a place to belong. He gets the appearance of stability his investors demanded. Simple, clean, transactional. But what happens when a deal designed to protect two hearts from further damage becomes the very thing that breaks down every wall they built? What happens when fate becomes real, when protection becomes passion, and when two people who swore they'd never love again find themselves falling harder than they ever thought possible? And here's the question that's going to keep you watching until the very end. Can a love born from mutual need become something worth risking everything for? If you believe that everyone deserves a second chance at love, especially after being broken by people who should have cherished them, hit that like button right now. Because if you don't support this story, you're basically saying that Harper deserved to stay rejected and Kaido deserved to stay alone forever. And I know that's not who you are. So buckle up, because this love story is about to take you on an emotional ride that will make you believe in the power of unexpected connections. 3 weeks later, Harper Lynn Coleman stood outside the Grand Raffles ballroom, clutching a borrowed evening gown and a press badge hidden in her purse. She wasn't here for the champagne or charity auction. She was here to destroy the man everyone called Singapore's golden boy. Her editor had given her one assignment: get close to Kaido Nakamura. Find the dirt. These tech billionaires always have skeletons, and his company stock is soaring too fast. Something's not right. Harper adjusted the deep emerald dress that her college roommate had FedEx from Atlanta. "You look like money, girl," she whispered to herself, practicing her "I belong here" smile. Growing up in Valdosta, Georgia, she'd learned to read people fast. Tonight, she'd use that skill to crack open the mystery of Asia's most elusive entrepreneur. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and a kind of wealth that made her daddy's medical bills look like pocket change. Harper grabbed a champagne flute and started working the room, her journalism instinct sharp as her grandmother's sweet tea recipe. "Darling, you look absolutely lost." Harper turned to find a statuesque woman with platinum blonde hair piled high and an accent that screamed expensive French boarding school. The woman's smile was genuine, but her eyes held the calculating warmth of someone who collected people like rare art. "I'm Leona Du Bois, and before you tell me you're fine, honey, I can spot new money trying to blend with old money from across 3 time zones." Leona's laugh tinkled like champagne bubbles. "Who are you hunting tonight?" Harper's southern charm kicked in automatically. "Harper Coleman. And I'm not hunting anyone, just observing." Well, since you're observing, let me introduce you to the most fascinating specimen in the room." Leona's eyes sparkled with mischief. "He's brilliant, ruthless, completely impossible to read, and has been standing by that window for 20 minutes avoiding everyone who wants a piece of him." Harper followed Leona's gaze to a man in a perfectly tailored black suit. Even from across the room, his presence commanded attention. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and the posture of someone who owned everything he looked at. But there was something else, a loneliness that seemed to radiate from him like heat from asphalt. "That's my target," Harper thought, her pulse quickening. "Kaido," Leona called out, gliding over with Harper in tow. "Stop brooding by the window like some romantic hero. Meet Harper Coleman. She's new to our little circus." When Kaido Nakamura turned, Harper felt like someone had knocked the wind from her lungs. His eyes were the darkest brown she'd ever seen, intelligent and guarded. When he looked at her, she felt completely exposed and completely invisible at the same time. "Ms. Coleman." His voice carried just a hint of his Japanese heritage beneath perfect English. "You don't look like you belong here." Harper's backbone straightened. "Excuse me, most people at these events spend their time checking phones or hunting for photo opportunities. You've been watching faces, reading body language. Either you're extremely bored or you're working." Her heart hammered. Had she blown her cover already? Maybe I just find people interesting. Interesting. Kaido stepped closer, and Harper caught a hint of expensive cologne, mixed with something uniquely him. "Tell me, what do you see when you look at me?" This was her opening. Harper let her natural honesty shine through. "I see someone who's perfected the art of being surrounded by people while staying completely alone. I see success that costs more than it pays. And I see someone who's forgotten what it feels like to have a real conversation." Leona practically purred with delight. "Oh, she's good. Kaido, you've met your match." Kaido's expression shifted, surprise flickering across his features. "And what would you know about real conversations, MS?" "Coleman, Harper Lynn Coleman, from Valdosta, Georgia, where we believe in saying what we mean." She took a sip of champagne, meeting his stare directly. And I know that you've been standing here for 30 minutes because you're bored out of your mind, but you can't leave because appearances matter in your world. My world. Tech empire, board meetings, private jets. The kind of life where every relationship is a transaction. Harper's voice softened slightly. Must get lonely. For a moment, something raw flashed in Kaido's eyes. Then his walls snapped back up. You seem to know quite a lot about my business. Harper's stomach dropped. She'd pushed too hard, revealed too much knowledge. But before she could backtrack, Kaido did something completely unexpected. He smiled. Not the polished corporate smile she'd seen in magazine photos, but something real and slightly dangerous. Ms. Coleman, would you like to continue this conversation somewhere with fewer observers? 20 minutes later, they stood on a private balcony overlooking Singapore's glittering skyline. The party noise faded to a distant hum. Harper realized she was in serious trouble. Not because her cover was blown, but because she was actually enjoying herself. So, Kaido said, leaning against the railing, before we go any further, I should probably tell you that I know exactly who you are. Harper's blood turned to ice. I'm sorry. Harper Lynn Coleman, investigative journalist, recently relocated from Atlanta. Your editor sent you here to dig up dirt on me. His smile was almost admiring. The question is, what are you going to do now that I caught you? But what he said next changed everything. Because I have a proposition that might interest us both. I need a woman, and you need a home. Like if you think Harper should take this dangerous deal with a man who just caught her red-handed. Harper stared at the contract Kaido had placed on the glass table between them, black ink on white paper, spelling out the most insane year of her life. 12 months, she said, her southern drawl thickened by disbelief. You want me to marry you for 12 months. Consider it an extended business arrangement with personal benefits. Kaido poured himself a scotch, his movements controlled and precise. You get financial security, a home, and your father's medical bills disappear. I get a wife who understands that this is performance, not romance. Harper's mind raced. This was supposed to be an investigation, not a life-altering decision. But her phone had buzzed 3 times during their conversation. Text messages from a hospital about her daddy's upcoming surgery. And if I say no, then you go back to your hotel room, write whatever story your editor wants, and hope your father's insurance covers experimental treatments. The bastard had done his homework. Harper realized this man didn't just catch her investigating him. He'd investigate her right back. I'll need to see the terms again. 6 weeks later, Harper Lynn Coleman became Mrs. Kaido Nakamura in what Singapore society pages called a wedding of the decade. She had chosen to honor her roots in the most unexpected way. Instead of hiding her small-town background, Harper wore a stunning champagne-colored gown with hand-sewn magnolia blossoms along the bodice, a design that screamed Southern elegance with every thread. Her grandmother's pearl necklace caught the light as photographers captured her walking down the aisle of the historic Armenian church. Bold choice, Leona had whispered during the fitting. Most girls would try to look more international. I'm not most girls, Harper had replied, adjusting the silk train that flowed behind her like liquid gold. If I'm going to be fake married to a billionaire, I'm doing it as myself. The ceremony was flawless theater. Kaido, devastating in his custom Armani tuxedo, played the role of smitten groom with Oscar-worthy precision. When he lifted her veil, his eyes held warmth that almost looked real. When he kissed her, their first kiss, Harper felt her knees go weak despite knowing it was all for show. You're a natural actress, he murmured against her lips as cameras flashed around them. So are you, she whispered back, her heart hammering in a way that had nothing to do with stage fright. The reception was a masterclass in controlled chaos. Harper smiled until her cheeks ached, accepted congratulations from people whose names she'd never remember, and danced with her new husband while maintaining exactly the right distance between them. But the real performance began when they got home. The penthouse felt like a museum, beautiful, expensive, and completely lifeless. Kaido disappeared into his study, while Harper stood in the master bedroom, still wearing her wedding gown, staring at a bed large enough for 6 people. "The staff prepared the guest suite for you," Kaido said from the doorway, his voice carefully neutral. "I assumed you prefer privacy." "How considerate." Harper kicked off her heels, her feet screaming with relief. "Anything else I should know about our arrangement?" "We maintain the illusion in public. Private lives remain private." And Harper, his voice carried a warning she couldn't quite interpret. "Don't try to dig into my business again. Marriage contract or not, I protect what's mine." After he left, Harper sank onto the massive bed, still in her wedding dress, and stared out at Singapore's skyline. Somewhere in the distance, her real life was waiting. Her daddy's surgery, her career, her heart that was supposed to stay uninvolved. But as she touched her lips where Kaido's kiss still lingered, Harper realized she might have just made the biggest mistake of her life. Because that kiss hadn't felt like acting at all. 3 months into their arrangement, Harper had mastered the art of living with a ghost. Kaido left for the office before dawn and returned after midnight. They shared the same address, but existed in parallel universes. Harper had converted the penthouse library into her workspace, crafting articles about Singapore's underbelly, while her husband built his empire in glass towers across the city. The only evidence of his presence were coffee cups in the sink and the faint scent of his cologne in the hallways. "This is working perfectly," Harper told herself each morning, typing furiously on her laptop. No complications, no messy emotions, no risk of catching feelings for a man who treated marriage like a business merger. But perfection, Harper was learning, had a way of shattering at the worst possible moments. The night everything changed started with her phone ringing at 2 a.m. "Harper, honey?" Her mama's voice cracked through the speaker. "It's your daddy. He's had another episode. The doctors, they say we need to talk about options." Harper's hands trembled as she listened to words like experimental treatment and out-of-network specialists and financial considerations. After hanging up, she stood in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, feeling the weight of her fake marriage pressing down on her chest. Thunder rolled across Singapore's skyline as rain began pelting the floor-to-ceiling windows. Harper grabbed a glass of wine and stepped onto the balcony, letting the warm rain soak through her cotton sleep shirt. "You'll catch pneumonia." Harper spun around to find Kaido standing in the doorway, still in his business suit despite the late hour. His tie was loosened, his perfect hair slightly mussed, and his dark eyes held something she'd never seen before: concern. "Didn't know you were home," she said, wiping rain from her cheeks. "I heard you on the phone." He stepped into the rain beside her, water immediately soaking his expensive suit. "Bad news?" Harper laughed, but it came out broken. "You could say that. Daddy's running out of time, and I'm running out of ways to save him." For a moment, they stood in silence, rain creating a curtain between them and the rest of the world. When Kaido spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. "I lost my sister when I was 15. Harper turned to look at him, rain dripping from his dark hair. "Kaido, Hannah was everything I wasn't. Warm, spontaneous, trusting. She believed the best in everyone." His jaw tightened, including the drunk driver who ran the red light. Harper's chest constricted. "I'm so sorry. After she died, my parents couldn't look at me without seeing what they'd lost. So I learned to need nothing from anyone. It was safer." Kaido's eyes met hers through the rain. "But watching you fight for your father, it reminds me what love actually looks like." Something shifted in the air between them. Harper felt it like electricity before lightning strikes. "My ex-fiancé's family told him I wasn't good enough," she heard herself saying. That a girl from small-town Georgia with a daddy who drives delivery trucks wasn't sophisticated enough for their social circle. "They made me feel like my love was cheap. Their loss." Kaido's voice was rough with emotion. You're worth 100 of their superficial connections. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know you gave up your career to marry a stranger for your father's medical bills. I know you wear your grandmother's pearls because they remind you of home. I know you sing old country songs in the shower and cry during commercial about sheltered dogs. His eyes search your face. I know you're the bravest person I've ever met. Harper's breath caught. How do you know about the shower singing? Thin walls. A smile tugged at his lips. Patsy Cline mostly, "Oh, God." Harper covered her face with her hands, embarrassed and charmed at the same time. When she looked up, Kaido was standing closer, close enough that she could see water droplets clinging to his eyelashes, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body, despite the cool rain. Harper. Her name sounded different in his voice, urgent, almost desperate. This wasn't supposed to happen. What wasn't supposed to happen? Instead of answering, he cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. This wasn't the controlled, performative kiss from their wedding. This was raw hunger mixed with tenderness. 3 months of careful distance crumbling in an instant. Harper melted against him, her hands fisting in his wet shirt as he backed her against the glass doors. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kaido rested his forehead against hers. "We should go inside," he whispered. "We should," Harper agreed, but neither of them moved. The rain continued falling around them as they stood frozen in that moment. Two people who had promised to keep things simple discovering that the heart doesn't negotiate contracts. "This changes everything," Harper said softly. "I know." Kaido's thumb traced her bottom lip. "Are you scared?" "Terrified." Harper's smile was shaky but real. "You. More than I've ever been in my life. If you believe everyone deserves a second chance at love, especially after being broken by people who should have cherished them, show your support right now. Because if you don't hit that like button, you're basically saying that Harper and Kaido should stay trapped in their lonely, empty arrangement instead of fighting for something real. And I know that's not who you are." That night changed everything between them. Harper woke the next morning in her own bed, still wearing yesterday's rain-soaked clothes, wondering if their balcony moment had been a dream. But when she stumbled to the kitchen for coffee, she found a steaming mug waiting for her, made exactly how she liked it, with a touch of cinnamon and real cream. "Good morning, Mrs. Nakamura." Kaido's voice was warm honey as he looked up from his laptop at the breakfast bar. "Good morning, Mr. Nakamura." Harper's cheeks flushed as memories of their kiss flooded back. "Thank you for the coffee. Thank you for letting me see the real you." For the first time in 3 months, they sat together. Actually together, not maintaining careful distance, not avoiding eye contact, not pretending the other person was furniture. "So what happens now?" Harper asked, curling her legs under her on the bar stool. Kaido closed his laptop and turned to face her fully. "Now we stop pretending this is just business." Over the following weeks, their relationship transformed like a flower blooming in fast forward. Kaido started coming home for dinner. Harper began cooking her grandmother's recipes: buttermilk biscuits, peach cobbler, and chicken and dumplings that filled the sterile penthouse with the warm sense of her Georgia childhood. "This is incredible," Kaido said one evening, savoring a bite of her famous cornbread. "What's your secret?" "Love and bacon grease," Harper laughed, watching him discover Southern comfort food with the same intensity he brought to board meetings. "Mama always said you can't cook with a cold heart." In return, Kaido shared pieces of his world she'd never seen. He taught her to prepare proper Japanese tea, his hands covering hers as he showed her precise movements. Saturday mornings became their ritual. Harper would wake to find him in the kitchen, moving through the tea ceremony with meditative grace. "It's about mindfulness," he explained, his voice soft in the early morning light. "Being present in the moment instead of rushing toward the next achievement." "I like being present with you," Harper whispered, and watched something beautiful bloom across his features. Their first real kiss happened 3 weeks later. Harper was reaching for a book on the top shelf when Kaido appeared behind her, his chest pressing against her back as he easily retrieved what she needed. But instead of stepping away, he stayed close, his breath warm against her neck. Harper. Her name was a question, a plea, a promise, all wrapped in 2 syllables. When she turned in his arms, the space between them evaporated. This kiss was different from their rain-soaked desperation on the balcony. This was slow exploration, hands memorizing faces, hearts finally admitting what minds have been denying. Kaido's fingers traced a line of her jaw with reverent tenderness before tangling in her hair. Harper's hands found the strong planes of his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing beneath her palms. When he lifted her onto the library desk, scattering papers and pens, she wrapped her legs around his waist and pulled him closer. "Are we really doing this?" Harper breathed against his lips. "Only if you want to." Kaido's control was hanging by a thread, but his eyes searched hers for consent, for certainty. "I want to," she whispered. "God, Kaido, I want to so much it scares me." That night, they made love with the desperate tenderness of 2 people who had been starving without knowing it. Kaido worshipped her body like she was precious art, his lips leaving trails of fire across her skin. Harper discovered that her composed, controlled husband became beautifully undone in her arms, whispering her name like a prayer. Afterwards, they lay tangled in silk sheets, Harper's head on Kaido's chest, listening to his heartbeat slow to normal. "I have to tell you something," Kaido said, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. Harper's stomach clenched. "What?" "I've been in love with you since that first night in the rain. Maybe even before that." His voice was vulnerable in the darkness. "This stopped being fake for me the moment you trusted me with your father's illness." Harper lifted her head to look at him. "Really? Really?" Kaido cupped her face in his hands. "I know this complicates everything, but I needed you to know." "It doesn't complicate anything," Harper smiled, pressing a soft kiss to his palm. "Because I love you too. I think I have since you caught me investigating you, and instead of being angry, you were impressed." "Best business decision I ever made," Kaido murmured, pulling her up for another kiss. Their home transformed around their growing love. The penthouse filled with Harper's laughter, Kaido's vinyl jazz collection, plants that Harper insisted made the space feel alive, and photos from their weekend adventures exploring Singapore's hidden gems. They were building something real, something that felt like forever. But forever, Harper was about to learn, required fighting for. For 6 blissful weeks, Harper and Kaido lived in their private paradise. Love had transformed them both. Kaido smiled more, Harper worried less, and their penthouse hummed with the energy of 2 hearts finally home. But happiness, Harper was about to learn, made you a target. The first crack in their perfect world came disguised as opportunity. "Kaido, darling." Isolde Van der Meer glided into charity luncheon like expensive perfume, beautiful, overwhelming, and impossible to ignore. Harper watched from across the room as the statuesque Dutch woman air-kissed her husband, her platinum hair catching the light like spun silver. "Isolde." Kaido's voice was polite but distant. "I didn't expect to see you in Singapore. Business brings me everywhere these days." Isolde's smile was razor sharp. "I'm expanding my art collection into tech investments. Your company keeps appearing on my radar." Harper's journalism instincts flared. Something about this woman felt calculated, predatory. When Isolde's ice blue eyes met hers across the room, Harper saw recognition and challenge. "You must be the famous Harper Coleman." Isolde appeared beside her with feline grace. "The little journalist who caught Singapore's most eligible bachelor." "Former journalist," Harper corrected, extending her hand. "And you are..." Someone who knew Kaido long before he became domesticated. Isolde's handshake lingered too long. "Tell me, dear, do you ever wonder what drove a man like him to marry so suddenly? Men like Kaido don't usually choose love over logic." Harper's smile never wavered, but inside, doubt began its slow poison work. The second blow came at Kaido's office that Thursday morning. "We have a problem," His CFO Marcus announced during the emergency board meeting. Rafael de la Vega is making moves. Harper knew that name. Rafael de la Vega, Spanish real estate mogul with a reputation for hostile takeovers and a smile that could charm snakes. She'd investigated him once for money laundering connections, but the story never ran due to insufficient evidence. What kind of moves? Kaito's voice was steel. He's been whispering to our major investors, suggesting that your recent personal developments indicate instability, questions about your judgment, your priorities. Marcus slid a tablet across the table. Stock prices are starting to fluctuate. Kaito scrolled through financial reports, his jaw tightening with each swipe. He's targeting our Singapore expansion specifically. There's more. Marcus looked uncomfortable. He's requested a private meeting. Says he has information about your wife that the board should know. Harper felt ice flood her veins. What information could Raphael possibly have? The third attack came that afternoon, swift and brutal. Harper's phone exploded with notifications as she sat in her favorite coffee shop, working on a freelance piece. Text after text, email after email, all containing links to the same devastating headline. Gold Digger's Game. The truth about Kaito Nakamura's mysterious wife. Her hands shook as she clicked the article. Photos of her filled the screen, leaving her ex-fiancé's house, crying at the canceled wedding, boarding the plane to Singapore, but worse were the quotes. She was obsessed with money from day one, her ex-fiancé's mother had told the reporter, always asking about investments, inheritance, family assets. When we realized what she was after, we had to protect our son. Harper Coleman is a master manipulator, added her ex-fiancé himself. She researched wealthy men like hunting prey. I'm not surprised she trapped someone as successful as Nakamura. The article painted her as a calculating predator who had seduced Singapore's tech prince for his fortune. Every private moment from her past relationship was twisted into evidence of her supposed gold-digging scheme. Harper's coffee went cold as she read lie after lie, each one more vicious than the last. Her phone rang. Reporters wanting comments, old classmates suddenly interested in her life, strangers calling her horrible names. The final blow came that evening. Harper, honey? Her mama's voice was weak through the phone speaker. I'm at the hospital with your daddy. He's asking for you. Harper's world tilted. What happened? His heart gave out again. The doctors say we need to discuss next steps. Real soon. Harper sank to the bathroom floor, still clutching the phone. Her father was dying. Her reputation was destroyed, and the man she loved was facing corporate warfare. Because of her, when Kaito found her 20 minutes later, she was on the balcony in the rain again, their balcony, where they'd first kissed, where everything had started. Harper, his voice was rough with emotion as he stepped into the downpour beside her. I saw the articles. It's not true. The words came out broken. None of it is true, Kaito. I never cared about his family's money. I loved him, or thought I did, and they destroyed me for it. I know. He pulled her against his chest, both of them soaking wet. I know exactly who you are. Your company's in trouble because of me. Raphael's using me to attack you, and now this... Harper's voice cracked. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am poison to everyone I love. Look at me. Kaito cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes through the rain. You are not poison. You are not a gold digger. You are the woman who saved my life by teaching me how to love again. But your business dash can be rebuilt. Money can be replaced. But you, his thumb wiped away her tears. You are irreplaceable. And whatever storm is coming, we face it together. Together? You are not alone, he said fiercely. Not anymore. Not ever again. The emergency board meeting was called for 8 a.m. Monday morning. Harper stood in their bedroom, watching Kaito knot his tie with mechanical precision, his face a mask of controlled fury. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. We could walk away, start over somewhere else. Kaido's hand stilled on his tie. Run away, you mean? Strategic retreat. No, his voice was granite. They came after you to hurt me. That makes this personal. He turned to face her, his dark eyes blazing. Besides, I have something Raphael doesn't expect. What's that? The truth. And a wife who's about to remind Singapore why they should never underestimate a southern woman with a sharp pen. 30 minutes later, Harper sat at her laptop, her fingers flying across the keys. But she wasn't writing a defense of herself. She was writing an expose that would burn down the whole corrupt system. The Puppet Masters, How Singapore's Elite Destroy Lives of Sport, by Harper Lynn Coleman Nakamura. 6 months ago, I came to Singapore as an investigative journalist. Today, I'm writing the most important story of my career. Not as an outsider looking in, but as someone who's seen a machine from the inside. This isn't about me. This is about a system so rotten that it devours authenticity and spits out carefully crafted lies. This is about how men like Rafael de la Vega use financial terrorism to destroy anyone who threatens their control. This is about how families like the Ashfords, yes, I'm naming names, weaponize shame to silence women who dare to love outside their approved circles. But most importantly, this is about how we let them. Harper's phone buzzed with a text from Kaido. Board meeting starting. Whatever you're writing, make it count. I love you. Across the city, Kaido walked into the Nakamura Industries boardroom like a man heading to war. 12 board members sat around the polished table, their faces ranging from concerned to hostile. At the head of the table, Rafael de la Vega smiled like a shark scenting blood. Gentlemen, Kaido took his seat without preamble. I understand there are concerns about my leadership. Concerns? Board member Harrison leaned forward. Kaido, your stock prices have dropped 8% in 3 days. Investors are questioning your judgment. This marriage dash was the best decision I've ever made. Kaido's voice cut through the murmurs. But please, Raphael, share your insights with the room. Raphael's smile widened. Of course. I've done extensive research into your wife's background. Her previous relationship ended when her fiancé's family discovered her mercenary tendencies. Financial records show significant debt, medical bills, family pressure. The timeline of your marriage coincides perfectly with her father's hospitalization. Interesting theory. Kaido's tone was conversational. Tell me, how exactly did you acquire Harper's private financial records? Raphael's smile flickered. Public information, naturally. Really? Because according to my legal team, accessing someone's private medical and financial records without consent is called fraud. Industrial espionage, when used to manipulate stock prices, carries a prison sentence of 10 to 15 years. The room went dead silent. Kaido opened his tablet and projected documents onto the wall screen. These are your communications with my wife's ex-fiancé's family, Raphael. Payments for their cooperation in your smear campaign. Your instructions on which lies to tell reporters. Your plan to drive down my stock prices so you could acquire my Singapore properties at a fraction of their value. Raphael's face went white. You can't prove Dash. I can prove everything. Kaido's voice was deadly calm. The question is whether you prefer criminal prosecution or just public humiliation. Across Singapore, Harper hit publish on her article and watched her phone explode with notifications. The story was being shared faster than she could count. Comments poured in from women who'd faced similar attacks, from employees who'd seen Raphael's tactics firsthand, from people tired of watching the powerful destroy the vulnerable. Her phone rang. Harper? It was her editor from Atlanta. What the hell did you just publish? My phone hasn't stopped ringing. The truth, Harper said simply. Finally, back in the boardroom, Kaido stood and straightened his jacket. I called this meeting to address concerns about my leadership, so let me be crystal clear about where I stand. He looked each board member in the eye. 6 months ago, I was the most successful and most miserable man in Singapore. I had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. Then I met a woman who saw through my walls and chose to love me anyway. Kaido, Harrison started, but Kaido held up a hand. I chose love, even when the price was everything. Because what's the point of building an empire if you have no one to share it with? What's the point of success if it requires you to become someone you despise? His voice grew stronger. Harper didn't marry me for money. She married me for survival, her father's survival, but she stayed for love. She taught me that true wealth isn't measured in stock prices or real estate portfolios. It's measured in trust, in loyalty, in the courage to be vulnerable with another human being. The room was completely still. So here's my choice, Kaido continued. You can stand with me as we build a company based on integrity and authentic relationships. Or you can stand with men like Raphael, who believe that destroying people is just the cost of doing business. Raphael stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. One woman has turned you soft ash. One woman has made me human. Kaido's smile was sharp as a blade. Security will escort you out. Your fraud investigation begins tomorrow. As Raphael was led from the room, Kaido's phone buzzed with news alerts. Harper's article was trending worldwide. Hashtag truth over manipulation was the #1 hashtag globally. Harrison cleared his throat. Well, I suppose that settles the leadership question. The room erupted in laughter, real laughter, not corporate politeness. Kaido's phone rang. Harper's name lit up the screen. How did it go? She asked breathlessly. We won, he said simply. How's your article doing? It's gone viral. Everyone's sharing their stories of fighting back against people who try to destroy them for loving the wrong person or being wrong class or just being real. Come home, Kaido said softly. We have celebrating to do. If you're not someone who supports fake people destroying real love, if you believe that authentic strength always beats manufactured scandal, show your support right now. Hit that like button because Harper and Kaido just proved that when you fight with truth and love, you can defeat anyone trying to tear you down. Victory tasted like champagne and felt like freedom, but Harper and Kaido discovered something unexpected in the aftermath of their battle. Winning wasn't enough anymore. 3 weeks after Raphael's public disgrace and criminal charges, Harper sat in their penthouse reading emails that made her heart race for entirely different reasons. Listen to this, she called to Kaido, who was making their morning coffee. This woman writes, Your article saved my life. My ex-husband's family was trying to take my children away, calling me an unfit mother because I left their abusive son. But seeing how you fought back gave me courage to hire a lawyer and tell my truth. Kaido appeared beside her, setting down her coffee and reading over her shoulder. How many emails like that have you received? Hundreds, maybe thousands. Harper's voice was thick with emotion. Women who were thrown away by wealthy families, employees who were blacklisted for refusing to participate in cover-ups, journalists who were silenced for investigating powerful people. They're all saying the same thing. They want to fight back, but don't know how. So let's teach them. Harper looked up at him. What do you mean? Kaido's eyes held the same intensity she'd seen in their boardroom showdown. You expose the system. Now, let's replace it with something better. 6 months later, the Coleman Nakamura Foundation opened its doors in a renovated colonial building in Singapore's Arts District. But this wasn't your typical charity with stuffy galas and tax write-offs. We provide 3 things, Harper explained to the packed room of journalists at their launch event. Legal support for women facing retaliation after leaving abusive situations. Media training for whistleblowers who need to tell their stories safely. And financial assistance for families destroyed by powerful people's revenge campaigns. But the foundation was just the beginning. Kaido had transformed Nakamura Industries into something the business world had never seen before. Instead of maximizing profits at any cost, the company now required ethical impact assessments for every major decision. Employees were encouraged to report problems without fear of retaliation. Board meetings included discussions about community benefit alongside financial projections. Wall Street thinks you've lost your mind, Marcus had warned during one quarterly review. Wall Street thought women couldn't vote and that the internet was a fad. Kaido replied, I'm not building a company for Wall Street. I'm building a legacy for my children. Harper's writing had evolved too. Her column in the Singapore Herald, Truth and Consequences, became required reading for anyone interested in accountability journalism. She found her voice not as an outsider throwing stones, but as someone who survived the system and could guide others through it. You know what I love most about her story? Harper said one evening as they walked through their foundation's community garden. Around them, women who'd been discarded by society were learning job skills, sharing their experiences, and rebuilding their lives. What's that? Kaido asked, his arm around her waist. We thought we were making a deal. You needed a wife, I needed a home. But what we actually created was something neither of us knew we were looking for, which is... Harper stopped walking and turned to face him, the setting sun painting golden highlights in her hair, a purpose bigger than ourselves. This foundation, your company's transformation, the women we're helping, none of it would exist if we hadn't been brave enough to let our walls come down. Kaido cupped her face in his hands. You know what I realized today? Tell me. Home was never a place. It was never this penthouse or any building. Home is what we built together. This mission, this love, this refusal to let broken people stay broken. Around them, the garden hummed with quiet conversations and gentle laughter. Women who'd been thrown away were blooming again, just like Harper had, just like Kaido had. They'd found their forever in the most unexpected place. Not in luxury or security, but in the sacred work of healing the world one rescued heart at a time. 2 years later, Harper stood at the same charity gala where their story began, but everything had changed. Remember this place? Kaido whispered in her ear as they entered the glittering ballroom. How could I forget? This is where you caught me investigating you and proposed the craziest business deal in history. Harper squeezed his hand. 1-year marriage contract, no emotions involved. Worst business plan I ever made. Kaido laughed. Best life decision, though. Tonight wasn't about charity auctions or networking. Tonight, they were receiving Singapore's humanitarian award for their foundation's impact. But Harper's attention was drawn to a young woman across the room, nervous, overdressed, clearly out of place. Look familiar? Kaido followed her gaze. She looks exactly like I did that first night. Scared, determined, and completely overwhelmed. Harper smiled. Excuse me for a moment. Harper approached the young woman with the same warmth Leona had shown her. First time at one of these events? Is it that obvious? The woman's accent was distinctly Midwest American. I'm Maya. I'm here writing a piece about Singapore's tech scene, but honestly, I feel like I'm drowning. Maya, let me tell you something that might save you years of heartache. Harper's voice was gentle but firm. The wealthiest person in this room isn't the one with the most money. It's the one who has people who love them for who they really are, not what they can provide. Maya's eyes widened. You're Harper Coleman. I read your article about fighting back against powerful people. It changed my life. Good. But here's what that article didn't say. Vulnerability isn't weakness. When I let myself fall for my husband, I thought I was being foolish. Turns out, opening my heart was the bravest thing I ever did. Across the room, Kaido was deep in conversation with a group of young entrepreneurs, teaching them that success without integrity is just expensive failure. The moment I stopped measuring my worth by my bank account, he was saying, I became truly wealthy, because real wealth is having someone who sees your worst day and chooses to stay. Real wealth is building something that matters more than profit margins. Harper rejoined him as the evening's presentations began. When their names were called, they walked to the stage hand in hand. No longer two broken people pretending to be whole, but two healed hearts choosing to share their strength. 2 years ago, we stood in this very room as strangers making a desperate deal, Harper addressed the audience. We thought we were trading convenience for survival. Instead, we discovered that second chances don't just heal your past, they become the foundation for your future. Kaido took the microphone. Home isn't a place you find. It's something you build with someone brave enough to love your scars and strong enough to help you heal them. In the audience, Maya wiped away tears, already planning a story that would inspire her own transformation. Subscribe if you believe broken hearts can become beautiful love stories. Because Harper and Kaido prove that when you choose authentic love over convenient arrangements, you don't just change your own life, you change the world around you. That night, Harper and Kaido sat on their balcony, the same balcony where everything had changed 2 years ago. Singapore's skyline glittered below them, but their attention was focused on each other. Do you ever think about that night? Harper asked, curled against Kaido's chest as the warm evening breeze stirred her hair. Which night? We've had so many important ones. The night you said, I need a woman and you need a home. Harper traced lazy circles on his chest. Did you know then that you were saving my life? I thought I was saving my company. Kaido's laugh was soft in the darkness. Turns out you saved me instead. Below them, the city hummed with millions of stories, heartbreaks and healing, dreams and disappointments. People searching for their own version of home. Look at that. Harper pointed to a couple walking hand in hand along the marina. Do you think they're falling in love for the first time? Or finding their way back to each other after something broke them? Does it matter? Kaido pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Every love story is a second chance story if you think about it. A chance to be better than you were yesterday. Harper smiled, remembering the scared woman who'd stood in this exact spot, convinced she was poison to everyone she touched. You know what I want to tell everyone watching our story? What's that? That if you're sitting there thinking you're too broken to be loved, too damaged to deserve happiness, too late to start over, you're wrong. Every heart deserves sanctuary. Every soul deserves someone who sees their scars and calls them beautiful. Kaido tightened his arms around her. Home found us when we weren't even looking for it. And now we get to help others find theirs. So tell us in the comments, what's your story of transformation? When did you realize that broken could become beautiful? Your story matters and we want to hear it, because everyone deserves their own version of forever.